golden drum. In the heart of a vast, untamed jungle, there was a village called Afiwa. The village sat at the edge of a great river, surrounded by dense trees and lush foliage. The people of Afiwa lived in harmony with nature, tending to their crops and building homes from the wood of ancient trees. The village was known for a sacred artifact, the golden drum, which had been passed down for generations. The drum was said to have the power to summon rain, ensure prosperity, and connect the people with their ancestors. Every year, during the harvest festival, the elders would perform a sacred ritual by playing the golden drum to ensure good harvest and the well-being of the village. But one day, disaster struck. The golden drum was stolen from its temple. The temple, where it had been guarded for centuries, was found desecrated. The villagers were shocked and heartbroken. Without the drum, the crops began to wither, the river ran shallow, and the animals fled the jungle. The villagers gathered in the center of the village, their faces filled with confusion and fear. The elders, worried about the village's survival, began to search for the drum but failed to find any trace of it. The people grew restless, uncertain of their future, as the village's once vibrant life began to fade. Among the villagers was a young girl named Zara, known for her adventurous spirit. Zara had always felt a deep connection with the jungle, often wandering its trails and learning its secrets. She knew every tree, every animal, and every path in the jungle, and she believed she could find the golden drum. When the elders declared that they could not retrieve the drum, Zara decided to take matters into her own hands. "I will go into the jungle and bring back the golden drum," Zara declared confidently. The elders, though concerned, were hesitant. "The jungle is vast and dangerous," warned Chief Elder Nasharo. "You are young, and many have failed before you." But Zara was resolute. "I know the jungle better than anyone. I will succeed where others have failed." Chief Elder Nasharo looked at her with a mix of sadness and hope. "If you are determined, you must go to the heart of the jungle. There, you will face many trials." Zara nodded, knowing this was her only chance to save her village. The next morning, Zara packed her belongings, dried meat, a machete, and a small bundle of herbs from her grandmother. She said her goodbyes to her family and set off toward the jungle, the dense trees swallowing her as she entered its depths. The air in the jungle was thick with humidity, the sounds of animals calling and insects buzzing all around her. Zara moved through the jungle with ease, using her knowledge of the terrain to navigate her path. As she walked deeper into the jungle, the forest seemed to grow more alive, the trees towering above her like ancient guardians. She walked for hours, until the sun began to set, casting an orange glow across the jungle. The path became more difficult to follow as the dense underbrush thickened, but Zara was undeterred. After days of travel, Zara reached the River of Shadows, a dark, swift-flowing river that separated the deeper jungle from the heart of the forest. The water was dark and murky, its surface swelling with an unnatural energy. Zara knew the river well. It was said to be cursed, a place where one's greatest fears would come to life. She had heard stories of those who tried to cross, only to be overwhelmed by illusions and nightmares that kept them from reaching the other side. As Zara stood at the riverbank, a voice echoed in her mind, "To cross the River of Shadows, you must face your greatest fear." Zara took a deep breath. She had always been fearless, but now she felt the weight of the challenge ahead of her. She stepped into the water, and immediately, the shadows began to stir. From the depths of the river, shadows of people she knew began to rise, her family, her friends, and even her beloved village, all in danger and calling her name. The shadows whispered, urging her to turn back. "Leave now, Zara. There is nothing for you in the jungle," they said. The fear grew, but Zara remembered the lessons her grandmother had taught her. Fear is not something to run from, but something to overcome. She clutched her machete and stepped forward, wading deeper into the river. With each step, the shadows twisted and writhed around her, but Zara pushed on. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, she reached the other side, the shadows disappearing into the water. She had passed the first trial, but she knew there were more challenges ahead. Beyond the river, Zara found herself in a lush, fragrant garden full of strange flowers and vines. But as soon as she stepped into the garden, the ground trembled, and thick thorns began to shoot up from the earth. The garden was no longer a peaceful place, it had become a maze of sharp, twisting thorns that blocked her path in every direction. To pass through the garden of thorns, you must show patience and wisdom, a deep voice boomed from the heart of the garden. Zara took a moment to assess the situation. The thorns were alive, twisting and turning as if they had a mind of their own. If she tried to push through the thorns too quickly, she would be trapped. Zara knew that rushing would only make the situation worse. She decided to take a slower, more careful approach. She studied the movement of the thorns and found that some areas had small gaps. Carefully, Zara stepped through the gaps, her body brushing against the sharp edges but avoiding injury. The path was slow and treacherous, but Zara's patience kept her calm. It took hours to navigate the garden, but eventually, Zara emerged on the other side, her arms lightly scraped but victorious. As Zara ventured deeper into the jungle, she came upon an ancient temple, standing tall and proud amidst the wild growth. At the center of the temple was a pedestal, upon which rested the golden drum, glowing with a soft, golden light. Zara felt a surge of relief, knowing her journey was almost at an end. But just as she reached out to take the drum, a figure appeared in the shadows. It was the keeper of the drum, a tall figure with piercing eyes and an aura of immense power. "You have come far, young one," the keeper said in a deep voice. "But before you can claim the golden drum, you must answer me this: what is the true meaning of power?" Zara thought for a moment, reflecting on her journey. She had faced fear, shown patience, and relied on her wisdom. She realized the answer was simple, yet profound: true power is not in taking, but in giving. It lies not in what we possess, but in how we use what we have for the greater good. The keeper nodded, his expression softening. "You have answered wisely. You may take the golden drum." Zara stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly as she lifted the drum from its pedestal. The moment her fingers touched it, the jungle seemed to come alive around her, the sound of the drum filling the air. She had succeeded. Zara had completed the trials and retrieved the golden drum. Zara made her way back to the village, the golden drum safely in her possession. As she entered the village, the people gathered around her, their faces filled with hope and awe. Zara walked to the center of the village, where the elders awaited her. She held the golden drum high, and the villagers cheered. The chief elder, Nashoro, stepped forward. "Zara, you have returned with the golden drum. You have shown courage, wisdom, and patience. You have proven yourself worthy." Zara smiled, but she knew that the drum was not the true power. It was the lessons she had learned along the way, the power of patience, the strength of overcoming fear, and the wisdom of using her gift for the greater good. The villagers gathered around as Zara began to play the golden drum. The sound echoed through the village, and for the first time in days, the sky began to darken with the promise of rain. The jungle seemed to breathe a sigh of relief as the rain began to fall, nourishing the land and restoring the balance of nature. Zara's quest was complete, but the story of her bravery would live on for generations. From that day forward, Zara was celebrated as the protector of Sefiu, her name spoken with reverence by the people of the village. And as long as the golden drum beat, Sefiu would thrive.